by if intended to stimulate sexual arousal?
Well, that's very significant because the
That's the best thing I ever heard you say.
Yes, because
You should watch her more.
because the Webster definition of sexual relations is only intercourse, and they wanted to establish this is not what they meant. But it excluded kissing. So his way out is to say that they only kissed. And even if they French kissed for hours on end, that's not a sexual intercourse unless he climaxed. Now, there are some...
If you're 51 years old and you could climax just from kissing, I'd vote for you 4 times. I'll tell you that. We got to take a commercial.
Politically incorrect, back in Hollywood. Call 213-852-2655.
All right, we were talking about the most recent problem with the White House in crisis, as your network calls it, Jeff.
What would you
or
have
White
us
House
call
under
it?
fire.
Man's Role in a Changing World, we could call it. Seems like a good title, but all right.
I thought that was funny. Okay, let me read to you what Billy Graham said today. Billy Graham was on the Today Show. He talked about Clinton. He said, quote, "I forgive him because I know the frailty of human nature and I know how hard it is, and especially a strong, vigorous young man like he is. He has such a tremendous personality, I think the ladies just go wild over him."
Well, I think
Billy
it's pretty obvious that Billy Graham's very keen on everybody getting on their knees.
Yeah. Okay.
But Eric, this is a new one, because here you have absolution before you have repentance.
That's very good.
And I think the clear intention here for Clinton is to close the male gender gap. Because anybody now can go home and say, you know, Billy Graham absolved the president on national television. So what if I had some oral sex at the office?
Yeah, that would work good in my house. Honey, I almost committed a sexual impropriety, but by gum, it was just and Billy Graham. And then as I walk out with my head under my arm, we can explain this.
But, you know, also in the news today was the revelation that Charles Kuralt had a 20-year out-of-marriage relationship with a woman in Montana or Oregon, somewhere on the road. I mean, if Charles Kuralt is getting some...
If Charles Kuralt is getting some, Billy Graham's getting some. I mean, the bottom line is, this has gotten crazy. Everybody is, everybody's like trying to figure out what's right and what's morally right and all that. The guys like to have women provide them with oral sex. All guys do. Guys who are in touch with God, guys who drive Winnebagos around the country, guys who are the leaders of the free world, guys who are bouncers at TGIF Fridays. Everybody likes oral sex. And you know what? At the beginning of this, I thought, wow, he's got caught. He's going to get found out. He's going to be let go. And now, the more I think about it, the more I think that this is a benchmark moment in American history. We all have to concede that we all like oral sex. This guy likes oral sex. His wife's not providing oral sex. He's not going to take 3,000 days off from having oral sex. So be it. Let him have oral sex. That's it. Right there.
Eloquent, Dennis.
She hates him. She hates him.
Not at all. You know what? That's fine. Let's go and live in Dennis's world. But then let's not lie about it. Let him go on television and say exactly what Dennis said, and I'm sure the American public will forgive him. I have no problem.
Okay, I think here's what we have to do first. No. Here's what we have to do first. We have to all... He's waiting for us to make the first move. He's not going to come on and say, I got a... We have to all stand up together in front of a TV camera and go, we don't care that you got a... And then he'll tell us you got a...
But
look right into that camera and say, Bill...
Okay, I want to be the first Republican to say, Bill, I don't care whether you got a... Just...
think it's amazing that nobody cares about the...
No.
But I
there's a
can't say it.
but.
That's what's
There's
interesting.
a but. The but is, but I do care.
There's a but. I didn't hear about that.
That's the sexual harassment thing.
And this is, I do care if you look the American public in the eye, wagged your finger, and lied. And I do care if you committed perjury. So, come clean.
Perjury, schmergery. Of course he can't say it, because he thinks we'll all run him out of office. But if we all let him know, we should have...
But
what's it called?
Dennis, the public has let him know because his poll ratings,
Yes.
no pun intended, are the highest it's ever been. Don't you think that's the American people's way of saying we don't care?
No.
To give him an 80%? No, Jeff?
I think the same people who the day the story broke were backing up the moving van of the White House are now looking at these poll ratings and saying, see, that proves what the American public thinks. I still think, despite the massively effective job Ken Starr is doing of destroying his own credibility, and he's doing a great job, that if it were to turn out that there was substantial lying going on here, I think these numbers would change. I mean, 6 months after Watergate, Nixon's approval
That's
ratings...
not true, because the polls show that people do think he's lying, and they still have him up there. No, that's true.
I understand what you're saying. I think that if it were to come out...
They understand why he's lying.
But
That's
isn't this all about the media, though? Isn't it just about the media
Much of
flexing
it?
their muscles, really?
Yes.
And sadly, it's the vaginal muscles.
All right.
Jeff is absolutely right.
Yes?
Excuse me, is this Midnight Blue? Have I finally...
This is aspirin.
Yes,
This
and I'm
is
Robin
amazing.
Bird, and I have to take a commercial. We'll be right back. Okay, we're talking about the Clinton-Lewinsky scandal, and that is certainly about how a boss and an employee treat each other, but it is not the only case. Today, big news, Latrell Sprewell, I'm sure you all know. He was, I think, thrown out of the NBA. Well, an arbitrator now has reinstated his contract. He will be eligible to play again in the summer. He will get his $17.3 million over 2 years. If you don't know what he did, he choked his boss, not once but twice, I believe. He came back, he threatened his life. The Players Union calls this a victory.
Well, it's a victory for them. I mean, it's...
Really?
The best part of this story was that the mediator, a trained lawyer, so we should have known something was up, said that what he did, simple battery, did not violate the good citizenship and moral turpitude clauses of the contract. So I'm thinking,
Right.
well, all right, what did he have in mind?
What does?
Yeah.
Right. If that doesn't break the law, what other business?
Isn't he violating his freedom of speech, though? If he's... couldn't you get him on that?
Actually, you know what would have got him out of the NBA? If he'd have lit up a cigarette afterwards.
Yeah.
Then they
No.
would have kicked him out.
Well, I'm sure that's his feeling. If Clinton can choke Lewinsky, why can't I choke the coach?
But it's definitely...
Denny, I did that joke in the monologue, I hate to tell you, and
That's why you gotta watch the show more. He doesn't even watch it when he's on it, ladies and gentlemen.
You did that joke?
I absolutely did.
That's the funniest thing you've ever done.
But it's basically a new ball game. You know, when Eric and I were at Cambridge, there were different rules. Remember, Eric?
Yeah, we didn't play basketball.
No, he
Or
was
Jeff and I, isn't it?
You and Eric were
No,
at Cambridge
that's
together?
right. He was at Pembroke, I was at Girton, and the rules were completely different.
I'll bet they were.
I mean, I was actually fined for having 3 men in my room after 10 o'clock at night.
Gee, I had to pay for that.
That's where you came up with a python thing.
Exactly. Well, it was Cambridge.
Yeah.
When I was at PS 165, we basically had a rule that if you created physical violence against, like, the principal or the coach, you would be kicked out. And I do think this is something that you have talked about, and you, on your respective shows, about the lack of accountability. There's just the definition of what is wrong, and therefore to be just said no to just gets smaller and smaller and smaller all the time.
And also for the Players Union to say this is a victory. It's a victory for everything we can possibly get away with. It's certainly not a victory for kids, right, who look at this.
Well, the kid choked his coach yesterday, right? Didn't I hear about that, a high school kid?
I didn't, but...
in the state of California, a high school kid has been kicked off the team. He choked the coach, and I'm sure somewhere in the back of his mind he's thinking, hey, you know, and I mean, this is the way it's done.
The worst thing that you can have somebody like Billy Graham go on national television and absolve any kind of behavior. I mean, there is a continuum. The only person left who is willing to say anything against that is Bill Bennett. I mean, that's really a pretty sorry state of affairs.
You're connecting Billy Graham absolving the president with this guy choking his coach.
Yeah, see, Latrell choked his coach. Oh, you guys did that joke.
All right, we got to take a commercial. We'll be back.
Our guests will be Meatloaf, Jay Thomas, Bob Odenkirk, and Laura Ingraham.
All right, as long as we have such a politically astute panel, we got a couple of minutes to talk about campaign finance reform, which was killed in the Senate by Trent Lott and his cohorts this week, because their argument is that if you limit the amount of money that you can give to politicians, that is, in essence, censoring them, which is a bunch of bull, right?
Right.
Money is not free speech.
Well, constitutionally it is, but to call their bluff, you can tell them, okay, let's make all contributions anonymous. You can give an unlimited amount of money, but nobody will know who gave. And just watch contributions dry up, because the only reason
I think
people
they should be
give is to
forced,
get
the
something
candidates
back.
should be forced to wear decals, like motor racing. So the sponsors are on them, you know, could have,
like...
So that, you know, you have the NRA give an arm and a leg, you know, you've got...
So you have Texaco.
Chrysler Corporation on the backside, so you see who's really behind them.
I think this is great.
No. You could have Burger King home with the Whopper on the front of their trousers. You know.
Here we go again. 24 years ago, when the Supreme Court said that a wealthy candidate could spend as much of his or her own money on a campaign as they wanted, I think my own feeling constitutionally is that was a mistake. But it has led to a situation where you can deal yourself in to the table. You don't necessarily win, as
yes,
we have seen.
Thank you for reminding me.
But you can become a
Greenfield taking heavy shots today.
But you can become a credible candidate even for president, as Steve Forbes did, whose biggest crisis in life was when the Chardonnay ran out in the country house.
Right.
If you spend $30 million of your own money, you are a credible candidate. And that's because of a Supreme Court decision. And Arianna's right. As long as this is the constitutional interpretation, all of these campaign finance reform efforts are going to fail.
But you know what, Jeff? In the end, money is the second best way to get access. The first best way is big hair, big lips, big checks.